So I've had this thing in storage for probably over a year now, and the moment that I realized what this is and what it can actually do is also the same time that the service it uses is being discontinued. End of life, will not work anymore. So amazing timing, could not have planned it better. All of this time I could have been using this, and the moment I realized what it is, it won't be usable anymore. At least that's the official way of looking at it, considering the official software won't have a server to communicate to. I'm pretty sure you can still use this after the discontinuation of the software, because this does have the ability to do local networks and communicate with local networks. So in some regard, it still will be usable, but at least the official way that it's been using, I guess up until now, won't really work anymore. And I'm recording this just a couple of days before the actual discontinuation. So the service is going to be shut down on November 9th. Ideally, we're going to see if we can get this up and running in today's video and see if it'll actually work. And also, I guess we could do an update and see what actually happens after the service is being discontinued. Let's go ahead and actually take a closer look at this thing and try it out. So how did I realize what this thing actually is? Well, the YouTube channel Mac84 recently made a video covering a Slingbox. Now his was a different model and it was also brand new, which was cool to see. But his video covers the history of the product, what it actually does, and he even got it to work. I'll have the video linked up here in the corner as well as in the description, but I highly recommend you go check out that video as well because it was very informative. But while watching the video, I realized that his Slingbox looks very similar to this. It's not the same design, but it is similar with the red accents here on the sides. And I soon realized that, wait a second, I have something that looks very similar to that. So I went ahead and I dug this out and I realized that yes, this is in fact a Slingbox. So all this time I had one and I didn't even know it. So what does this do exactly? Well, it's kind of like an in-home streaming device. On the back, you have standard AV inputs, and different models had more inputs and outputs as well. Now, this is a smaller unit, so it only has the standard definition AV inputs. Essentially what this does is that you take any sort of video source, in this case composite or S-video, along with stereo audio. You plug this into this device and then you hook up the device to your network. So with an Ethernet jack, you connect this up, and this allows software on a computer or even a smartphone to communicate with this device and essentially receive the video that this is transmitting. So that is really cool, considering that this is using standard definition input. And what's also cool is that because this is an older device released around 2007 or 2008, I think this one is specifically from 2008, but the point is because that this is an older device, it has support for older software and older hardware essentially. So if you really wanted to, you could use something like an old iPhone. And in today's video, we do actually have an appropriate device to test this out with. We're gonna try and see if this will actually work. So I've already plugged in the power supply, and I've also got an Ethernet cable right here. So we'll go ahead and connect this up to the network. We should be able to use the iPhone 3GS here. I've installed it on another device just to make sure that this will actually pop up, and it does. So we'll go ahead and download, and this is a fresh install of iOS 6. This is the white iPhone that we've seen on the channel a couple of times now, but 6.1.6. The latest one that is available still on the App Store is for iOS 10 or later, and it is 64-bit compatible, so it will work on newer devices as well. When the service is being discontinued, the app might disappear from the App Store, but if you get the app now, it will be saved in the Apple ID you're using, so if you ever want to try this out or anything like that, you'll still have it in your account. So I went ahead and I installed the Windows version of the setup for the Slingbox because I've heard that the Mac version has problems, and this also immediately detected it, while the Mac, I guess, had trouble loading or at least finding it. But anyways, it says that we are up to date. So I set up a name and a password for it, and I guess it needs a video signal in order for it to continue, so we'll go ahead and plug something in real quick. Okay, and there's our video signal, and of course this isn't probably what they intended, but we do have video here, so we'll go ahead and see what else the setup wants, and it seems to be working fine so far. And for now, because I don't have anything permanently set up, I'm just going to skip the remote control setup. I'm sure that it'll have an option for it to be adjusted or changed later on, so we'll just go ahead and click on next. Oh, okay, I guess it wants to. Now, I highly doubt that the Sony PlayStation is going to have anything like this. I also completely missed this while I was filming it, but while I'm editing now, I noticed that it actually does have an option for a Sony PlayStation, but it's a PlayStation 2 and this is an original one, but that does make sense because the PlayStation 2 does have an infrared receiver on it and you can play DVDs if you wanted to. Maybe it's an option to try out in the future, granted the service is still working. The original PlayStation was easier to set up for the filming of this video. And again, this of course won't work with the Sony PlayStation, but I guess the setup wants this. And oh, we have a on-screen remote. That is quite cool. Currently restarting the box, and it'll show up the same image because it's the PlayStation. But I guess I could put in a game and we could see how well, I guess, moving video is. Okay, so I don't really care about internet viewing. I'm just gonna go ahead and click on skip. But as you can see, live video is being played back. I put it in Gran Turismo, and we'll go ahead and skip that. It seems to be playing just fine. Now granted, this is on an actual PC. I'm assuming that on lower end hardware, at least at the time when this was new, it probably wasn't as great. Okay, and it seems to be set up. So we'll finish up here and we'll go back and try it out on the iPhone. So here's the Slingbox. It's connected, it's configured, and we have the PlayStation off to the side, connected into the Slingbox, playing a game into the directory. We can see the Slingbox AV is there. So if we go ahead and click on connect, it will actually work. So I'm going to press reset on the PlayStation just to see it loading. But it's working. And if we go into options, we have different options here. So we can disconnect from the box. We can change the source from composite to S-Video if we have more than one device hooked up. We can change from letterbox or standard depending on what sort of content you're watching. So if it's widescreen, you'd probably go with letterbox. Standard for 4:3, and then we also have some easy accessible controls here for play, pause, volume. You can stream this to another device as well, and then we also have a row of options down here. So we already looked at options, but there's also quality. Now it's only set to standard quality. High quality is probably dependent on the device you're using, or I guess depending on the video source or how strong your Wi-Fi is. And then we also have different options such as the on-screen remote, the guide, and the menu. So these are probably more dependent if you use the IR blasters to communicate with an actual device. But in this case, it's not configured to anything because this is a PlayStation, doesn't have a infrared receiver. Now the guide doesn't do anything, which is probably because it's not configured correctly. The remote will actually have an on-screen remote here, and you can change the view, and you have a whole bunch of different options here. Of course, this is also dependent on the specific device you're using. So yeah, there was a record option, which is probably for a DVR or something similar, but we have a different range of options here. I also downloaded the app on an iPod Touch 2nd generation running iOS 4. And it's working just fine. Now, it did not go to the menu like the iPhone did. It immediately detected the stream and it connected, probably because it's on the same account and it was already selected. But the fact that this is still working on a device as old as this is awesome to see. I wouldn't be surprised if it even works on something like iOS 3 or even older. And considering how not optimized iOS 4 and the iPod Touch 2 are, this seems to be running just fine. Also, if you have a user already on one device, it'll detect that someone is on the box, and it'll ask if you want to disconnect the user if you're trying to connect onto another device. So if we click on yes, let's see what will happen. So this says that it has been disconnected because another user has connected to the box, and this is now connected, showing the stream from the PlayStation. Now hopefully this will still work even after the services are shut down, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And that'll conclude this video because, well, we got it up and running and clearly it works without a problem. Now whether this will still work or not, that's another question, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see what will happen after the services are gone. But hopefully this will still work with local connections like this by just detecting the device on the same network. If you guys enjoyed the video, then consider leaving a thumbs up because it really does help out the channel. And if you want to see more videos like this, then consider subscribing. But that's it for now, and thanks for watching.